Good morning.
Welcome to Tea Talk. This morning, we're going to talk about addiction and trauma and journaling and how that all comes together and everything. But first, we're going to come into this space.
With just this brief meditation. Now, if you all have something that you say that you like to start your time with, you can say that. But we're just going to come into this space, and our goal is always to help ourselves and to help others. So we want this information to be helpful for all. So you can close your eyes or just lower your gaze, sit comfortably. And we surround ourselves with a bubble of white light, God's love and light. Only those with the highest intention can communicate through us and to us. We are more than our bodies. We are beings of love. We're beings of light. We call on those whose wisdom and experience is greater than our own to guide us and protect us. And above all, we're so thankful. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I always feel better after that.
Me too. Me too.
Always.
I will.
All right. So today we're going to talk about addictions and trauma, different kind of traumas, and how both of those relate to journaling. And so when we're talking about addictions, we're talking about alcohol abuse, drug abuse, video games, sex, shopping, eating, sugar. Like there's just a vast variety of different addictions that anyone could have. And that's not really, like, we consider that to be the problem. Drug addiction's the problem. Alcoholism is the problem. But really, that's how we're treating the problem. So when we go back to figure out why we have these addictions, that leads us into talking about our trauma.
Well, we were just talking a little bit ago, and I don't think any of us ever start out as addicted. Like, it's not our basic genetic concept. And this is a big, which came first, the chicken or the egg. But with the exception of babies born that are addicted from the womb, addiction starts out as a coping mechanism. Work is too stressful, or this is that, or whatever, and we just don't want to deal with the feelings, so it's easier to have a drink or zone out on the video game. Or I remember having stressful weeks many years ago when I was younger, and my husband bring me home a cheesecake because it had just been such a bad day. And that's where the sugar is, like, so I learned to feed my emotions or numb my emotions and all of that, instead of looking at ways of, oh my gosh, why am I so overwhelmed that my house isn't clean? Or why am I so overwhelmed that the kids are being kids? And why do I have all of this? And then, okay, so I'm going to feed this away, I'm not going to deal with it. Or I'm going to drink this away, I'm not going to deal with it. And I think that's where a lot of addictions come from, is we don't know how to deal with what's going on. And it's just such a big thing that this is why the journaling has helped me, because I start looking at going, oh, that's a belief system. Oh, I'm putting this pressure on myself. Society tells me I have to do things this way, or I have to be the good girl, or I have to, be professional at work. And I'm trying to hold all of this in, and I don't know how to deal with the emotions of not being what everybody else expects. Oh, I need a Jack and a Coke. And that becomes not just a way to handle that, but then it becomes the system that I use to deal with everything in life that I haven't figured out how to deal with. And that's where I use the journaling. So as I'm journaling, I'm finding that, oh, wait, is that really a thing? Do I need to be worried about that? Oh, that's why I have this belief. Oh, I didn't even know I had that belief. Okay, so the journaling is helping me uncover these truths or belief systems that I have, or why I'm feeling certain ways. And then that is helping me understand why I have these addictions that I'm using as coping mechanisms. Yeah. So I can go on down this rabbit hole all day long. Yeah, some of my big ones I've been realizing is like, oh, I have to keep my house clean. And if my house isn't clean, then what does that mean about me? Because society says that we have to have a clean house and everything has to be orderly and tidy. So if it's not clean and orderly and tidy, am I a bad person? And then how do I handle being a bad person or what society expects from me? And I think we get stuck in that.
Now I'm sitting here thinking, and the one word that comes to mind is that's why it's called work. That's
Yes.
why it's called shadow work, because it is work. It is uncomfortable, and you see some things that you didn't know was there. So, but yeah, there's a lot we can say about societal norms and
There is.
expectations and how it affects us. I mean,
Yeah.
who else had to be someone you're entirely not?
Yeah.
It just every day you got up and it's like you played a role, like a
Hmm.
masquerade.
Yeah.
Yep.
It wasn't me,
Put your mask
but
on. It
Yes.
yeah,
works.
yeah,
And when that mask slips, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah,
And we all
you
have
got to be
masks.
okay with, okay, it's okay if my house isn't clean. Nikita and them were gone for the week, and things that normally bothered me did not bother me. I realized that I like my spices out on the counter so I can see them. But now, if everybody was here and I felt like I needed to live up to those expectations and things had to be a certain way, then I'm like, they have to be put up and the counter has to be clean and all of this. And I'm like, wait, no, maybe we need a spice rack on the counter so that I don't have to put them away. And I could be like, oh, there's my Himalayan salt, or oh, there's my 21 salute seasoning that I like for this, or here's my pepper that I like on this, or and I can see it and not have to hunt through the cabinets. But wait, I'm so busy thinking about what other people expect of me
right.
that I've internalized it and now I'm a freaking turmoil in here.
I have to say something. It just kind of it's a little bit unrelated, but it just came up. So in case anyone out there has a little ADHD or ADD, or um, I used to have to have things on my desk, or I'd forget them. If I put them away, they didn't exist, and that's not okay in my line of work. You got to have a clean desk because then you look like you know what you're doing. But if I put things away, then I didn't know what I was doing. As long as I had things out, I knew what I was doing. But just a little aside, this was a little reel I saw. Put your If you have trouble with that, put your condiments in your vegetable drawer and put your vegetables and your snacks up in your door so that you can see them, because when they're put away in the vegetable bin, you forget they're there. True story. You'll be like, oh yeah. So if you put them where they're visible in your refrigerator. Anyway, I thought that was a really good tip for people who need to have things front and center. Anyway,
Mhm.
that's a little aside, but just a
Well,
tip.
no, but that's kind of a good thing because my brain works like that too. As you're saying that, I'm thinking a lot of addictions is self-medicating. So when we have ADHD, people that are ADHD have any, things going on, a lot of addiction too is self-medicating. Like we don't know how to deal with things and society expects us to be a certain way. So
All
Right.
addiction is self-medicating.
yes, it is.
It
All
It is
all addiction is self-medicating.
self-medicating.
It
Yes.
is. It's even, and you may not think of this as an addiction, but shopping.
Hmm.
Shopping is one. Going out and shopping because you had a rough week and you just need some, we call it shopping therapy, even. My
Hmm.
friends and I would. And we'd go spend money that we didn't have on things that we didn't need
Mm-mm. Yeah.
because it had been a rough week and it felt good. And then
Yeah.
we'd go eat food that so it's just a perpetual thing, and it made us feel better, but the root cause was still there.
Yeah.
So did
So
it
let's
was a momentary fix.
Mhm. And then like addictions, like anything that we do too much of, the next day we're remorseful. The next day we're feeling bad. The next day our bank account is going, oh wow, where are you going to get the money for the things that you need as opposed to the things that you needed as a band-aid to fix things? And your gut's going, oh my God, that food was horrible. Like, why do I feel like this? It's because I medicated myself with an addiction that doesn't serve what's underlying. It only serves the problem.
Right. It's a
Right.
band-aid.
Or it masks the problem. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
band-aid.
It's not a very good one either.
Mm-mm. No.
So let's talk briefly about kind of what can cause, like that root cause of addiction. So what the real problem is. So let's go into that, because I know, and I'm going to throw someone under the bus here that's going to be watching this, and she's going to know, well, Shannon, it's not always you. I'm always throwing you under the bus.
It's always me. It's all about me.
Not always you. I'm not always throwing you under the bus. I'm going to throw someone else under the bus. And I'm not going to say who it is or anything, but just someone. And when they watch this, they'll know who I'm talking about. But we were having kind of like a retreat type thing. And we were talking about childhood trauma. And, this person was like, but I had a good childhood. Didn't have any childhood trauma. Like I had a good childhood. So why do I feel all these feelings? And why do I have these coping mechanisms and like these addictions and things like that? Like, why am I just all of a sudden crying out of nowhere for, like, I had a good childhood, adamant. I had a good childhood. And then breaking things down from journaling and just from talking and, going over things started to come up of what happened in the past when this person was a child, and things that were kind of hidden. And it wasn't anything bad. They were just minor little things, like whenever you bring something up and your parents tell you that what you have to say doesn't matter. And they don't necessarily come out and say that, but they're like, you need to go to your room. That's not the truth. Like, that's not how it really is. Like all these little things, when you go to your adult that you're supposed to feel comfortable with, and they basically just shut you down, like just minor things like that, or always believing your siblings over you being the oldest, so you being responsible for everything, and your younger siblings not really having any responsibilities from your perception, or you being the youngest and always being picked on by the oldest. And when you go to your parent, them kind of just shushing you away and not really validating how you feel. Like trauma isn't necessarily always a big event. Like we think of trauma as being sexually abused or verbally abused or physically abused or something major happening. And that does happen. But there are small traumas that happen on a daily basis, even as an adult, that you could talk about right now, when you suggest something at work and the entire team is like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this instead. And it's like, you don't feel validated and listened to. And that's a little trauma. And so you have those and they compound over your entire life, but it all starts in childhood.
Yeah. It's as simple as, like you said, somebody can say, oh, don't worry about that. You're just being kids. It's not a big deal. But, for you in that moment, it was a big deal. And then as through life, you learn to, oh, I'm going to be quiet. Maybe it's not a big deal that this one's picking on me. And then you learn to, like, oh, I have to be the good girl, or, it's not that big of a deal, so I'm not going to talk about it. And those little things chip away at who you are and letting you voice who you are, like your truth. You're like, instead of saying, no, that makes me uncomfortable. Oh, well, no, it's not that big of a deal. Let's just do it anyways. And then you're like, oh, well, I have to be the good girl, so I'm going to succumb to a little bit of that peer pressure, or because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And then you stop being who you are and start being what everybody expects you to be. Society says you've got to be the good mom, or you've got to be the good girl, and let's be quiet and let's not be loud. And as we get older, it's like that. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be that uncomfortable woman in the room that is too big or too much or too this or too that, because we've been suppressed for so long. And just, our makeup has to be right and our hair has to be right. And we have to look pretty and we have to be nurturing and we have to be loving and we have to be kind. And yeah, there's so much more than that.
And this and this and this and this and this.
Yeah. And it's not depression when you don't clean your house because you're raising two kids by yourself. It's not. it's not depression or anxiety when you just want to sleep for 3 hours and let somebody else handle it all. That's not depression. That means I'm tired. And
Right.
and we label exhaustion, and we glor glamorize, oh, she's such a hard worker. Oh, she puts in 100 hours of work a week and she gets all of the things done and she can do this all by herself. She is amazing. She is so strong, until we're not. And then she's crazy.
Yeah.
She's depressed. She's anxious. And then we're like, I need my wine. Hey, I'm going to go shopping. Yeah.
Yeah.
And journaling
And that-
helps me uncover a lot of this as to why I'm doing this. And this is how I am learning what my triggers are and why I'm doing that, and helping me understand better ways to cope with my addictions. Yeah.
And addictions don't start as addictions. They
Mm-mm.
start as, coping mechanisms. And, like, I'm going to have that one drink. I'm going to meet my friend after work and we're going to go to Chili's and have chips and salsa and a margarita, and then next thing you know, you're either addicted to the alcohol or the chips and queso. Depends on who you are.
I remember doing this on lunch.
But then when you're journaling,
Mhm.
like the journaling challenge that's going on,
Mhm.
sometimes it's just uncomfortable. It's
Mhm.
uncomfortable to go there. And I know for me, so then it would be like, well, I don't want to do this. This doesn't feel good. I'm going to go to Chili's and have chips and salsa and a margarita, because really looking at yourself like that it's hard.
It
It's
is.
difficult. It's not easy. There was some things that I discovered that I thought I was okay from. It turns out I wasn't. And I can look back on my life and see how I dealt with that. Workaholic. That is a big addiction.
Oh, yeah.
I remember thinking, well, I don't have to think about this now. I'll just go to work. And fortunately, I always had jobs that are never done, so I could work as much as I wanted. So I would just be a workaholic. And
Mhm.
that took care of that having to think about things. Kind of like the Scarlett O'Hara. Instead of say, I'll think about this tomorrow, I'll just go to work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's a lifelong process. I mean, it's not like it's something that we, I think, will continue to work on. But the more we discover about ourselves, the more we understand about ourselves and that root cause, and we're able to move forward.
And it's easy to blame. We can place blame on our parents, our classmates, our teachers, our, whoever, and about our current situation and our current coping mechanisms and our current addictions and how we just deal with things on a daily basis. But when you start journaling and you start having that daily self-reflection and that daily self-awareness of how I continue to contribute to this addiction, or how I continue to contribute to this issue or this problem. And it's not about changing the world, it's about changing you and recognizing your own addictions and recognizing your own triggers. And whenever those triggers come up, instead of continuing on in that same coping mechanism, what are you going to do about it? What are we going to do instead of going to get the margarita at Chili's? What are you going to do instead of going shopping? Like changing our own habits so that we're working on ourselves and not just covering up the problem. And that is where the journaling starts starts getting you into that daily self-reflection of, what did I do today? What could I have done differently today? What should I have done? What could I have done? What will I do tomorrow? If this comes up tomorrow, what would I have done differently?
I'm just going to share a little bit. So when I was doing my journaling, I was thinking about my parents' core beliefs. And then I went into my grandparents, and they had wonderful belief systems. They're blue collar, hardworking, hard work pays off, all of those things. And then I thought, I had an amazing childhood, amazing. But as I'm looking at this, I'm realizing that, and I'm just paraphrasing from my journaling, I'm like, I internalized all of these beliefs and I took them too far. Like, I am like, all of these beliefs that other people have had outside, I've internalized them and made them my own belief systems. And that was never their intention, to be like, oh, you have to work so hard that you neglect yourself, or you have to be so perfect that you neglect yourself, or that your house has to be so perfect that you don't sleep. Nobody ever said that to me. Nobody ever said, you have to be such a good girl that, you let other people take advantage of you. Nobody ever said that to me, but that's how I interpreted it. Because if I think back, my grandfather said, no, ma'am, your no means no. Here's your phone, here's your quarter for a payphone in case anything happens and you need me to come get you. I had that as well, but I always was that good girl. And then I realized that I've internalized this so much that I've created this thought in my head that I have to be perfect to be worthy. And anytime that I'm not perfect, I'm not worthy. And that's where the journaling is helping me to understand those underlying causes and belief systems that I've put in place on myself, so that when I'm not okay, I'm just going to drink it away, or I'm going to eat it away, or I'm going to shop it away. And that's how I'm learning through journaling to understand the core problem, the underlying issue of my addictions and why they're coming through. And the way I'm working on this is going, oh, wait, that's not an okay thought. It is okay to be messy. It is okay to be imperfect. Oh, it's okay to ask for help. And that was a big one with me. Hey guys, can you help me with this, and this? And learning at work that I don't have to be 100% perfect. I can delegate. I can ask for people to help me. And that's okay. And it doesn't make me less of a person. And that hopefully by not being less of a person and being okay with not being perfect, then I won't have that need to medicate my emotions away or medicate my imperfections away. Yeah. And then I have all the other tools. Like, I know to meditate, I know to shop, I know to, I mean, not shop, I know to exercise, I know to, maybe I need to shop right now. I know to
Go
stay off of
to it.
Amazon at 10 o'clock
Shop,
at
shop.
night when I've had two margaritas. Like, I know what to do, like take a walk in nature, but it's dealing with that underlying thing of just not being good enough. And journaling helps bring that up, but without those other tools, it's very easy to just go, oh, this is hard. Drink. Yeah. Yeah, this
It
is hard.
it comes to mind, programming. They say that
Mhm.
when we're children, we're we're basically in the programming stage. I think it's to
Mhm.
age 7. I'm not really sure about the age, but just think about babies, how they mirror us, open wide. We open our mouth and we demonstrate to them and they copy us. And it's all, we're programmed by the society we're in at the time, school, the other kids, our parents, our family. And so think of, I was just like had this aha moment, like journaling is like deprogramming or reprogramming. You're kind of like going back and resetting. I don't know, just a aha moment
No,
because
I
I think,
love that. I absolutely love that because I've never
yeah,
thought about journaling as reprogramming. I've just
yeah,
always thought of it as uncovering.
right.
But I will now start taking that extra step and going, instead of this belief system or this thing that I'm doing, what can I do instead? And start adding some affirmations into that journaling. I am enough. I am perfect as I am. I am
Yeah,
not complete, because if I were perfect, I would be dead. Um, but I can do that.
yeah.
I can add that into my journaling, and just, how do I change that belief system? How do I let go of that belief system?
And
And I
in
can add
our
it
actual
into my mood
journaling
journal.
guide, we have affirmations in there whenever I put that out there. That's part of the process. I don't know
Oh,
what
yeah.
but yeah, there's actually,
I'm only on day 7 or 8. I'm only on day 7 or 8 because this stuff gets really, really hard. And then I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Take it
and
baby steps. Take it as you can, because it is hard, and you do want to just be like, no,
Yeah.
I quit.
So I jump in about once a week and do 1 or 2
Yeah,
or 3.
I
and
always
that's
say
all okay.
It is.
some is better than none. Some is better than none, and it is a process.
Yes.
So ideally, we're doing this as a daily practice. However, if you're going to do it once a week or twice a week, or however, then let's look at the reasons why you're only going to do it once a week or once every other week. And because sometimes it does bring up some hard stuff. And so sometimes you need some time to process that. And
Right.
then, because we feel like we're behind, we're going to do 2 days instead of just 1 day, that once a week that we do it. Instead of just focusing on one journaling prompt, we're going to focus on 3, and then we're going to send ourselves into a spiral, and then we're not going to journal for a week.
That is so true. That
Well,
might be
Michelle,
that
when
might.
we started this, I was like, can we do this once a week? And you're like, no, daily. And I'm like, fine.
And then so Shannon went the complete opposite and started doing it like, okay, well, I missed a few days, so let me just catch up on all those days all at once.
I did the same thing, and yes, the overwhelmingness of it is real. Maybe just be okay with one at a time. I'm thinking to note to self, be okay with one at a time to allow for processing.
Yes.
Because it's really, once you think about something, it's kind of marinating in your
Mhm.
brain for a little bit. And I realized, just like Shannon, I was throwing a lot at my brain at one time, my soul.
Yeah. And
It's
then
not
that,
about getting it done and checking it off, I guess. It's about the process.
Right.
yeah. And being okay in the process. And that is the
Yeah.
hardest part, is to be okay with the process.
Yeah.
Be okay with the ugliness of it and the painfulness of it and the loss of what you expected your life to be like.
And it really is a commitment, though, that you're making for yourself. I benefit nothing from anyone doing the journaling challenge except for myself. If Shannon skips a week and then joins back in, I benefit nothing. I also lose nothing. It is only for Shannon's benefit.
Right.
If you start on and you get to day 4 and you're just like, I can't do this anymore, I benefit nothing and I lose nothing from that. But you benefit and you lose based on your participation and what you're willing to do for yourself, for your own healing. And it is hard. Healing is hard. So, it's, even though it's a good thing to do daily, it's a good practice for daily. If you need a day or two to process, then take a day or two to process, but don't come back then and, do 2 or 3 to catch yourself up, because
Good
then
point.
you're overdoing it. And then that's a coping mechanism in itself. It's kind of like when you start like a workout program and it's a 30-day, I'm going to do this for 30 days. And so every day you're going to do this one thing for 30 days. Well, you get to day 6 and you're just like, I can't today. I just can't. I can't. So then tomorrow you just can't. And then the next day you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do all 3 days because I missed,
And
That's an
then there's
interesting
no sport and
perspective.
you can't work out the next couple of days. And you start in that cycle of not being able to do anything because you can't, and then doing so much that you're back into I can't. Oh,
And then you're
wow.
using coping mechanisms to deal with not even being able to do your exercises or your journaling and then so it just puts you into another spiral of coping mechanism.
So a little something for those that may have perfectionist tendencies or all or nothing. tendencies that like I have to do all the things or whatever. Um, so in light of what you're saying, Michelle, so I do instead of doing 2 or 3 or 4 to catch up, I do my 1, but then maybe the next day I just write 3 gratitudes or 3 affirmations. So I'm still journaling. I'm still building my habit of journaling
Mhm.
and or writing my dreams down, and then I go to the next prompt
Mhm.
and do it that way. That because like all or nothing. I mean, for some people, like if I quit, I just might quit. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I might not come back to it, or if I go too slow, I'll forget about it because it kind of falls by the wayside. But if I'm doing something, okay, this is my time to journal every day, then I can do the prompts, I can do gratitude, I can do affirmations, and I have a daily practice of journaling.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought of that because sometimes that's what happens to me. If it's too hard, it goes away. I'm not going to do that Sudoku puzzle, or if I put it away, it goes away. So
So
I have to
then
keep it.
you have to give yourself grace to, if you're not perfect and you don't do every single day of the challenge, you give yourself grace if you do 3 days. If you don't do it on day 4 or day 5, you give yourself grace, and you
Right.
say, I have a dog crawling over me. And you give yourself grace and you say, okay, well, I'm going to pick back up now today. I'll do day number 4 today.
Yeah.
But I might not do day number 5 tomorrow. I might continue on with day number 4 tomorrow. I might just do some self-reflection of something that happened during my day. I may do some just purge writing today.
Yeah.
Or automatic writing today. So while you're doing the journaling challenge, we don't want to get caught up in this. I have to do this every single day, or I'm just not going to do it at all. There's no use in
Yeah.
it. It's not any good for
Yeah.
me. And so and I see that happen a lot. You see, it's kind of like New Year's. Everybody wants to start working out. So we start the journaling challenge and everybody's like, done. First few days, everybody's chiming in, done. And then as we're continuing on, there's none. And everybody got to that. It's that lack of consistency, but it's also, once you have that lack of consistency, the lack of grace for yourself to then just say, okay, well, I didn't do it the last 3 days. Okay, so I'm going to do it today.
Yeah.
And you be back on there. And it's that perfectionism of, I can't do 30 days. I can't do 60 days, and so I've already failed.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go shopping instead, or I'm going to do this instead, and back onto our habits and addictions and patterns of coping.
Yeah.
So
I think I think the big thing is commitment to the process. If this is what you choose to do, commit to the process of, okay, I'm going to go on this healing journey for myself through journaling and self-awareness and self-love and grace. And it has to be like, I want to do this. And if not, that's okay. But if you do, then yeah, like you said, to give yourself grace. If you do it every other day, if you do it,
Yeah.
do one day of journaling and uncovering all of those things, and the next day of gratitude or affirmation, or what came up in my dream last night, and then the next day back to uncovering the inner work and the shadow work of the journaling, whatever that looks like for you, as long as you don't, if that's your choice, as long as you continue to make progress,
Right.
whatever it looks like for you.
Because I'm going slowly through it, and I jumped around a little bit. So I've got to go back and fill. And that's driving me crazy that I jumped up and I didn't do, like, I skipped some because I was trying to like catch up. So it's like, I'll do those later. But I guess my point was like, just like, for me, I have to have a habit. It has to be a habit for me, or it doesn't. So it's building a habit of checking in and doing the journaling thing. But and I guess having grace with myself that I did skip those parts and I am just right here and it's okay. It's 100% okay because there's value in all of it. And I did ask Michelle, do I have to go in order?
No.
And she said no. So
Yeah. Mhm. I don't know if I've looked at it. I probably haven't this time around, but I remember the first time we did the journaling, one of the prompts were, if you make no changes at all in your life, what is your life going to look like in 5 years? What will your future look like if you make zero changes and you continue on the path that you're on right now? And I didn't like that answer, not at all.
yeah,
And now I'm doing some things that are really, really, really uncomfortable and very, very scary. And they might not work out, but I know that it's different than the path that I'm on right now. And yeah, it's scary, but I'm also hopeful, something great can come of this, because staying
right.
stuck in the same place for your entire life and doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again
Mhm.
isn't what I want to do anymore. So
And that's a great question to ask yourself. That's a good one.
it's in one of the journaling
It
prompts.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a journaling prompt. I got this from Michelle. I didn't come up with this on my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And that
but
is,
it was a big, it was a big stepping point for me. It was like, oh, because the high blood pressure, the stress, the overeating, all of the coping mechanisms, all of that. I got to shake some things loose and do something different. Yeah,
it is a journey.
it is. It is.
Yes. And you get to decide how you want that journey to look to a certain extent.
Hmm.
Uh, you can either make conscious decisions to go a specific way, or you can just kind of let things flow freely and not address your own shadow self in the parts of you that you need to get to the bottom of to give you the life you want, and you just continue on the path you're on, which often leads to destruction. So it's a decision you're going to make for yourself. And the only person, well, I won't say the only person to benefit is you, because those around you also benefit. Like my family definitely benefited from me doing healing work. Not all of my family, some of my family left. That's a whole other discussion.
They weren't ready.
Ready, and you know what, and that's okay. And that's a discussion for another day. But like, you will lose people sometimes, because you'll realize that those people aren't meant to be on this path of your journey with you. And sometimes people come back around and sometimes they don't. It's about taking care of yourself and doing what you need to be able to live the life you really want, and not be stuck in that, well, I have to go to work, well, I have to do this, well, this is going to happen and I've got to do this. And it will also allow you to change your perspective to, like, I want to do this. This is something I want to do. I want to go to this job. I don't feel like this job is breaking my back. I don't feel overwhelmed and hate my life, because I was able to choose a job that better aligned with who I am. I'm better able to choose relationships, because I've been working on myself. So I'm not seeking that external validation from others to make myself happy.
Yeah.
It's a paradigm shift.
It really is. It really is.
So for those of us struggling with addictions, whatever they are, we want to get out of that spiral and learn who we are. We can journal, meditate, uncover some truths, and find ways to be happier and more true in who we are. And that way we're not having to look for those outside sources and get caught in those addictions to medicate what we're uncomfortable with. So,
And it's always helpful to understand the why. because
Mhm.
I have in my past kind of like bulldozed my way through whatever I felt was holding me back, but I did not ever look at the why. I just kind of said, I'm doing this, and I did it. But it, as I get into this work and I've gotten into this work, I understand why that was what it was, which would have been a lot easier. It would have been more gentle learning and understanding than the way I dealt with it, just powering through it, kamikaze, come what may, just a lot of stress with that, a lot of stress, not good for your body. So if I'd have known then, what I know now. But it's a great process.
It is.
And there is like, there's different ways you can do journaling also. So, you know, you can write it down and you can keep it. And next year you can do the same thing again. And you can look at the responses you have for day one this year versus last year. And you can compare and see, is it still the same thing I'm focusing on? Is it something that I've just recently uncovered that I never thought of before? Or it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that happened to me. I had buried that down so deep that I forgot about it.
Yeah.
You can do that, and you can self-reflect on your answers and how they've changed over the years, or you can do purge writing of your journal responses. And sometimes that helps people. You write down your journal response and then you burn it, you get rid of it. So you do like a 12-minute, and I don't know why 12 minutes is significant. I would love to be able to tell you, but I don't know why. But you do 12 minutes of writing your journal response. At the end, you don't reread it. You just burn it, throw it away, bury it, something to get rid of it, and you'll let it go. Now, for the next year, if you're doing the journaling challenge, you don't have it to refer back to, but that also helps you just let whatever that issue go. Helps energetically.
Yeah.
It helps you just let that go.
Mhm.
So, you know, and so you might want to kind of explore that option if you're someone that doesn't like keeping a journal, or you're possibly in a situation where you can't keep a journal because of others around you. You may not be in a safe situation, talking real world issues here, that you might journal and you need to discard it for your own safety or your own mental health. That's okay to do. You don't have to keep any of it.
Yeah.
So,
And there's journal apps for your phone too. I had used that for a little bit, but something about the physical writing of it helps me. So, but that's an option for journaling.
Yeah. And nobody cares about your handwriting either, because it's just for you.
nobody cares.
Sometimes I write so fast I can't even decipher what those words were.
And I journal. I have a lot of journals. Like I'm a daily journaler. So it's like this, so you would think, oh gosh, what's the problem? But it's the work. It's the work. So I journal every day, but doing the work is, that's the thing that, for me, I need to get a little bit more, I need to be okay with it. It's hard. It is hard, but it's worthy and it's worthwhile, and it's already given me some real ahas.
And still, even though
And
you've been journaling for how long now, that you
years.
still will be like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize that was even a thing, or that was still a thing.
Yep.
Because it's a lifelong process. It's not something that you don't do a 60-day journaling challenge and you're like, okay, I'm all healed. Everything is wonderful and dandy in my life.
Yeah.
And I just continue
Halo.
on. Everything's wonderful. That's not how that works.
It's like an onion. It's like the layers you've probably heard people talk about before. You're just peeling off layers your entire life and discovering more about yourself. But there's always more to discover about yourself.
Right.
It's really cool. It's kind of exciting.
Yep. So if we don't have any questions about any of that,
If you have questions,
yes,
you can post them in the comments.
put them in the comments, send us a message, and put in the comments what you want us to do our next tea talk on. It may not be the next one, but we'll start working on a list of things that you guys might actually want to hear about if you don't want to hear about what we want to talk about all the time. But usually it's something that's come up for the week, during the week for us that, and usually it's a collective issue. Usually when one person has something going on, it's a sign that other people do as well.
Yeah.
Intuitively, synchronicities and all that, we'll usually have, when we talk, something will come up and it'll be Shannon will say something and then I'll say something and Mom's like, you know what, me too, so it's usually a collective thing. So but let us know what you want to hear about. Nicole says panic attacks, tips to work through them. We have some great practices for that, so we can definitely do that, Nicole. So, but if you're watching the replay, let us know. If you are watching us on YouTube, down the line somewhere, comment and let us know. And let us know what you're interested in hearing about. And we'll either do a tea talk on it or we'll do another live session to address what you want to hear about.
I just want to say one last thing before we go. Whatever you're going through, love yourself, give yourself grace, whether it's an addiction to food or alcohol or drug or sex or whatever. Love yourself. Don't get in that spiral of beating yourself up. Do the 1% change, 1%, decide what you want to do, but always, always give yourself grace and love. And that's a hard one for me.
It really is for all of us.
Make it a habit. It's worth it.
It is.
So worth it.
Because I am my own worst critic. I am.
We all are. We are all our own worst critics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just human nature. I mean, before we got on, my mom and Shannon were talking about like, you're so good at that. And I'm like, you guys have way too much faith in me. They're like, no. I do think they're a little biased being my mom and my best friend.
We love you. But at the same time, I would never let you walk out of the house with spinach on your teeth. Okay. So I'm going to be real. I'd be like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So.
All right. Well, everyone have a wonderful week and we'll see you next Saturday.